Hi guys, thank you for tuning in and thank you for requesting a review on the brand new BMW XM. The name alone does raise some questions, of course. True car lovers know the XM badge as one belonging to the French Citroën brand. However, clearly the lawyers from both brands have had a little chat and Citroën sadly agreed with this. But yeah, the XM. Let's have a look at it.
Hey guys, welcome back to the BMW Blog YouTube channel. I just had a chat with Frank Vermeel, the BMW M CEO, but now I am joined by Marcus Zuring, BMW head of M Design, and we're gonna go over the design details of the XM, of course the proportions, dimensions, and all of that. So let's dive right in. Marcus, welcome to the US. What can you tell me about this, Project Rockstar?
Yeah, thank you very much. So when we are starting from the front, we can see the whole car got a huge presence.
Okay.
So it's a high car.
It definitely has a lot of presence. Yeah.
And it's stiff and it's upright.
It's also stiff. I wouldn't say that is a compliment in any way, shape or form. I mean, formal could be something positive. New Range Rover is formal, but it's by no means, in no way, a stiff car. This, by the way, is a stiff car. So yeah, there's that.
So it's a proud car and has a lot of character.
Yeah. Much like an iron fist in the face has a lot of character.
And when we go top down, we can see that the windshield upper is a very straight line, and we see LED searchlights as extra X details. So the whole car is a combination of four major details. It's BMW X DNA, BMW M Power, luxurious materials, and electrification. Okay. And here we see a little X detail. And what you also could see is that the A-posts are not tilted in. So they are very stiff and upright.
Again, of course, this is an ode for those who don't know, because M by BMW is going to be 50 years, celebrating 50 years of great engineering and design achievements. And BMW still has this ultimate driving machine slogan, and I would say that would be conveyed through design if a car was athletic, if it was dynamic, or rather than stiff. So this is now the second time he applied stiff as a positive sort of reinforcement of the concept of X or M. And I think even for X, the BMW lineup, starting with the X5 many years ago, a couple of generations ago, that never was a stiff car. It was actually likely at the time one of the best driving SUVs in the world. It was a dynamic SUV. It put the S for sport in sport utility vehicle. And especially the second generation was fantastically dynamic, not just to drive but also to look at. Designed under Chris Bangle, truly fantastic proportional statement, great surfacing, beautiful way of integrating, new ways of integrating graphics. The headlights, for instance, the sculpture around them, the lack of shut lines. They very smartly made the front fender wrap around the front three-quarter corner without the shut line that is normally, let's say, between the headlight and the wheel, because it wrapped around, and then they had this sort of a graphic up front underneath the grille that, let's say, had sort of a hint of a push bar or a bull bar, but that was actually where the bumper separated from the fender. That car was full of great ideas. It had this beautiful, strong shoulder line, a great application of the so-called Hofmeister kink at back. The L-shaped taillights were, I don't think, ever more beautifully integrated into a BMW SUV. That car had a stance as well. It just sat on its wheels again perfectly. Anytime I see a car like the second gen SUV X5 on the road, I'm still amazed by how well that thing is proportioned, how great its stance is in the real world. Back over to XM, which isn't that good. It isn't that much of a BMW, despite the massive kidney grills that I'm sure will be discussed in this video.
This is also supporting the character of the vehicle. And the bonnet height is also quite high. And the power domes, we have two of them, they are like jet engines targeting towards the kidneys.
Okay.
And BMW face is made of the combination of kidneys and headlights. And what we can see here are big and horizontally oriented kidneys.
Okay.
And we have a little black frame and an inner frame which got the same color as the bonnet.
Yeah, of course. So just to outline that, the black outline around the grille is there, so it doesn't look like one blob towards the bonnet, which obviously is of lighter color as well. So it's just there to contrast the two kidney grills. But yeah, we're talking about details that are not relevant. Celebrating 50 years of BMW M shouldn't be, I would say, about a car that looks like it wants to kill you. It looks like it wants to run over or even through things. It's a true Terminator. It's brash, it's wildly aggressive, and it's not in any way, shape or form linked to what makes BMW so great, or has made BMW so great for many years, because now it's sort of a caricature of itself. Take away these two massive kidney grills, and I'm, to be honest, not even bothered by the size of it. I'm bothered by the execution of the grille. And the execution of the entire design. Like I said, take them away and nothing in this rather plywood-looking car, if you like. It's like a, one of those dictator machines that are used to, like I said, drive through things rather than enjoying the drive. And if you take away these grills, the surfacing, the bonnet, for instance, looking at this perspective out on the XM, it doesn't exude the BMW language in any way, shape or form. And the same goes for the side profile. There isn't that strong dynamic shoulder line anymore. The pillars aren't pushed inwards. He made a point of it and almost being proud of the fact that this is a non-dynamic BMW. I don't get that. I understand the fact they say, okay, in other videos you'll hear people talking about this, BMW people that is, that in the old days when the let's say first real M car, M1 came out, sort of the poster thing to have was a sports car, and now apparently that's the SUV. And you can think about that whatever you want, but I could accept that as a briefing, right? Although I would say, please make a sports car because you're BMW, but hey, okay, let's accept that as a briefing. But then it should be the most dynamic, most athletic SUV in the world. I could even accept the first generation BMW X6 as a outcome of that briefing. I just said how great the second gen X5 was, and of course X6 of the first generation was based on that car. Many people hated it for it being the first, perhaps after the SsangYong, but still the first properly designed coupe SUV. Apart from the fact that obviously an SUV will never be as dynamic, will never drive as good as a low, wide coupe car, the execution of the briefing, the thinking behind it that Bengal and his team did was fantastic. And you can see that because of that car, basically the entire world now offers coupe SUVs, from Renault to Mercedes-Benz to any brand. So they definitely, whatever you think of that specific part of the market, they touched a nerve there. And in the end, car design is about selling cars too. So I do accept that the celebration of 50 years of M could be an SUV for that reason. However, not like this.
The elegant color. And for the first time we see here an LED light guide embedded in between these two frames. And it's the first time that we have a full contour light on the kidney, because the kidney is the icon of BMW. Mm-hmm. And inside we see the M-typical horizontally oriented double bars.
Well, they're only M-typical now because of that horrendous pig-shaped M3/4 grille that featured these horizontal bars, but not in the past 50 years. So I think it was weak on that car, or these cars, let's say, and I think it's weak on the XM too. They took away, again, one of those clear brand identifiers, like they took away the Hofmeister kink, like they took away the strong shoulder line, like they took away a range of typical BMW elements, replaced them with super generic car design nonsense. And they've done the same thing with the grille that, of course, is extremely important to the BMW brand. So why?
In black, and they are somehow in line with the current M3, M4. And as I said, it's the combination of headlights and grille. And here we see for the first time a splitted headlight. Okay. So we have an upper unit and we have a lower unit. The upper unit is the daytime driving light.
Yeah, so this is maybe a point that not many people have seen yet, so I'd like to quickly pause the video in here as well. The idea of having the let's say the focus of the down-the-road graphics, so the combination of all the graphics, grille, headlights, intakes, etc., making the face of the car, the facial features, making that focus on slim LED headlights, and then the let's say real headlights being placed lower into the car is nothing new. So all sorts of brands have done this for the last, let's say, 10 years. What they have done here is hide these big regular headlights in a black graphic underneath the grille. So I don't know, mildly interesting perhaps. I'll try to give them that, think of something positive to say. Because there's now more focus on these graphics that you want people to read as the actual headlights, and you hide the real headlights, so to speak, visually even more. So, okay, there's that.
Mm-hmm. And it got a distinctive techie feeling. So
I'm not sure if he really wants to say techie, but it definitely looks techie.
It's a focused view.
Let's just zoom into these, let's say, visual headlights, so these daytime running lights up top. Remember the BMW Angel Eyes, as they were called, or actually Corona rings, believe it or not, that was the official name. Introduced on the 5 Series. Anybody and everybody could see there was a BMW coming from, I don't know, 200-300 meters away. There was nothing else like it on the planet. BMW, the 4 rounded headlights, and then emphasized for the first time by these Corona rings, these angel eyes. Truly fantastic. That was then taken forward by Chris Bangle when cars at BMW became more expressive. Rightfully so. I'm a big fan of his work. I think what he did to the brand was extremely important, not just for BMW, but actually for the entire car design world. He pushed boundaries. He showed that it was important to truly show through design what the brand was standing for. And these BMWs, although controversial perhaps, are actually the true embodiment of the ultimate driving machine. More so than the lovely cars, the E38 7 Series, for instance, which is a lovely, fantastic, sure. But it is, in all honesty, not really conveying that message through its design that this is the ultimate driving machine. And that's what's separating BMW from Mercedes-Benz or from Audi, all offering large luxury sedans in that case of the 7 Series. But there's only one car that is this ultimate driving machine. And of course the 7 Series by Bangle, with the so-called Bangle, but actually designed by fellow Dutchman Adrian van Hooijdonk. That's a different story. There's a design review on that 7 Series too, where I go into that car in a lot more detail. But what the 3, the 5 and the 7 Series did before Bangle was on board was look all a bit the same, and there was no real differentiation apart from the size, let's say. Whereas when Bangle came on board, the compact 3 became a true sports sedan. The 5, in between the large luxury barge 7, which was more formal in the way it stood on its wheels, the surfacing, the graphics, so the headlights, it was more up straight. And then the 5 Series was right in between. It was this dynamic luxury sports sedan with proportional statement that was clearly a 5 Series, looking back over the lineup of all 5 Series, but it was also clearly pushing that idea, that concept, into the future, into a relevant future for the brand. So, spinning that all back to this car, just looking at these headlights, it could be absolutely anything. These are just two, I think, sort of triangular light units within a black graphic, which of course they will say is harking back to the angel eyes in one way or another. But the honest story is that it has nothing to do with that truly fantastic identifier of the brand. Looking at this car at night, sure, you've got these two massive intakes that are now lit up, but let's take them away. Let's be honest, right? Let's just focus on these headlights. Nothing there tells you that that's a BMW. Nothing. And that's a shame, because they had it and they could have developed that even further, and they just pushed it away, like all these other features, BMW design features that we've discussed earlier in the video.
And in the lower part, we see the high beam and the low beam behind tinted glass, integrated in the expressive front end graphic. And even the license plate, here you can read XM, is put behind tinted glass. This is typical show car things. This is what all the designers are dreaming of, to have a proper, nice, full integration of a front-end license plate.
Exactly. Now let me ask you about the headlights. So is the reason behind the split headlights a technical one, or is it purely styling?
So there's no, let's say, technical reason, or let's say that there's no kind of law we have to follow by that idea. It's really to have the iconic double lights here as the daytime driving lights in a separated way, so that they are not compromised by the rest of all what a modern headlight needs, like a low beam, high beam, as I explained before. And
so yeah, to be honest, I think there is a technical reason, because there's no way you can make headlights that compact. This compact as they are here. So that's fine, right? I think the idea of moving the headlights, let's say the high beam, low beam down, and then having these daytime running lights up there, it's not a bad idea. And like I said, many brands do that, and this is the BMW way of doing it, and it's a bit more refreshing perhaps than just having these units underneath the visually main headlights. But again, nothing there tells anybody that this is BMW. It's entirely generic.
So we can have them very slim, and as I said, with this distinctive and let's say a bit focused view, it's then possible. And on the other hand, BMW is offering cars in different segments.
Sure.
Smaller cars, mid cars, higher class cars, and that kind of idea we will see in the future also for upcoming BMW luxurious cars.
So you're trying to differentiate between classes, and basically the higher class.
Exactly.
That's the one that will end up with
and
that.
it gives us so much more freedom to generate exactly this nice modern graphic.
Understood. Now, before we go to the side and to the back and talk a lot more about that, and of course inside, what can you tell me about the color choices on the car? Because it's a matte finish. I can't tell if it's a gray or not, but it's combined with piano black and some other shades as well.
I think from the side you even can see that better, in a better way. And on the top surfaces we have a matte bronze.
Okay.
It's a light and warm color.
Okay.
And in contrast to that, on the lower part we have a darker, colder space gray metallic. And when we walk around the car later on, you can see that the belt line on the doors are working as a separation line for the two-tone scheme. And two-tone schemes in that kind of way are also iconic for upper-class cars.
Gotcha. So to kind of phrase this in a different way, you're also trying to match the colors to the luxury aspect of the car, basically, right? So
and to create a kind of tension.
Okay.
Warm, cold, light, dark.
Understood. Very interesting. All right, so since you mentioned the side, maybe we take a look at that and we go over the details, especially the roofline and all of that, and there is a lot to discover there, so let's do that.
Yep.
All right, so we're at the side view of the new XM, and it's extremely interesting. There are a lot of design details that we've already talked about it off camera, but of course it's more interesting when you explain it to everyone. So tell me, what's special about the design view of the XM?
Having a look at the side view of this car, answer the question honestly, right? We've got a wraparound windscreen, so a blacked out A-pillar, let's say. We've got this duotone, warm top, cold bottom. We've got these really technical looking wheels and harsh surfacing, but there is nothing here in all that stuff that is saying BMW. Nothing. There is no brand identifier. There's nothing dynamic. It's a sort of a block of concrete in duotone.
Yeah, from the side view, it's the overall proportion. And we have a saying, good design starts with good proportions.
Okay.
That's true. But I'm wondering how you dare to call this a car with good proportions.
And what we see here is a very long wheelbase. We have big 23-inch wheels, rugged and luxurious, designed at the same time. We have a very short front.
How does that look? In all honesty, right? How does that look like a luxurious wheel? I mean, that could be under a tractor. That could be under like, I mentioned the dictator machines, let's say. And also the BMW logo now says BMW rather than the roundel with the blue and the white. Why? That's not like, let's just be honest, that is a Terminator wheel that could go on to a car that is made for destruction, but that doesn't say, like, park it next to a Range Rover, or park it next to a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce if you want to talk luxury. But even luxurious SUVs, again, I mentioned Range Rover before, but also feel free to have a look at a Cullinan, or feel free to have a look at the Bentley Bentayga. They don't have wheels coming close to this. Well, this.
Front overhang, typical for BMW cars.
Now we're looking at this fender view actually. Look how incredibly flat and stiff that is. It's just one straight line. It's a flat piece of metal. And then there's a bit of curvature going from the haunch on a haunch, where the lighter clamshell bonnet meets the fender flare. But that thing is just flat.
And then a stretched long bonnet, the stiff A-post, as we said, and a dynamically declining roof line. And that roof line is held by a very robust D-post.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it is indeed. And then there's the separation in color again. But then there is no Hofmeister kink. Again, right? Just leaving it out for no apparent reason. And then these taillights are obviously this new take on what used to be the typical BMW L-shaped taillights. But the glass to body ratio, and I'm sure they will show the car from the rear or three-quarter rear as well, is just completely off too. So it looks top heavy, right? You normally want to, especially on any modern piece of car design, and especially on the BMW, you want the lower body to be visually heavier, so the car looks planted on the road, sort of a trapezium form, and the glass on top should be smaller than that lower half of the body. This does the exact opposite. So this looks like a bubble hat that is unstable, rather than something that looks planted on the road, or even X-worthy, right? A terrain car again has large chunky tires, so the body is able to move over complex, difficult terrain.
massive, powerful rear end. So, and that all in all creates unique, radical, new proportions. This is important to enter that new segment, what we are calling the segment of the...
I'm happy that they put the car behind this massive pillar hiding at least a part of its hideous design. So well done for presenting the car there, BMW. But however, the stuff that we can actually see, again, look at a massive overhang in the back, and then look at sort of the rear window overhanging the overhang. I mean, there's so much wrong with this car on so many levels. It's just impossible to pinpoint a specific thing. And again, discussing that X5 of the second generation, and look how well that is a complete sculpture, let's say, that looks utterly dynamic, and was quite groundbreaking at the time it was introduced, and is still actually a car that is rather pleasant to look at. And then look at this, which is a car free of any production issues, free of any safety or pedestrian problems. Or it's a white sheet of paper, do whatever you want, and this is what they come up with.
Extroverted luxury.
Okay.
And maybe some more details on the side.
Let's talk about this. You mentioned it might be called the black belt. It's quite unique. I've never seen any BMW before, so maybe we start with that.
Exactly. We have here a black side view, side window finisher, and it ends in a new interpretation of the Hofmeister King, which is...
Well, it's not a new interpretation of the Hofmeister King. It is just no Hofmeister King. It's a new interpretation of a side window graphic, which, if this would be, let's say, a new startup looking for an interesting way of identifying the brand, sure, why not? But this is not a Hofmeister King. The whole idea of the Hofmeister King was that it came back on itself, so it didn't end up sharply, making the rear end of the car, the D-pillar of the car, look weak and flimsy. like it does on the XM, despite the size of the average apartment complex.
Also a little iconic icon on all the BMWs. And it continues on the door upper. And this line is also supporting the wedge-shaped look of the car from the side view. It ends above the charging flap with a XM logo embedded here, accordingly to high fashion labels.
Okay.
And this black belt is also working as a division line for the two-tone scheme.
Okay.
So the light and warm matte bronze, the cold, darker space gray metallic. What we could
wouldn't be a BMW M car without the proper M mirrors, right?
Exactly.
And they're a little bit different. So maybe before we go with the other one, I just wanted to kind of point that out. They're quite different than what we've seen before.
This was a project of its own.
Oh,
you
really?
can see what went all into that mirror. The housing is the matte bronze metallic, and we have a CFK inlay. And we have this extra little wing, so the spoiler or the winglet, and this is also important from the rear view mirror. You know, when an M car is following you, you can see then it's an M car only by the outer mirrors.
Yeah.
I think when the BMW XM is in your rear view mirror, the actual side mirrors are not the first thing or the second thing or the third thing that will come to mind as an identifier, but that might be me. Anyway, yeah, it's a different interpretation of the typical M mirrors, which are a great identifier. Let's just be honest here. But yeah, I'm just lost for words in this project. I just don't know, like, what's going on at BMW Design. They're clearly pushing out a range of extremely radical projects, both in production as well as in concept form in this case. And some people say, well, you know, it's the same that Bengal did a couple of years ago, but it's absolutely not. Bengal was doing relevant changes that were perhaps shocking to some, and according to some they still are, but it's misunderstood. This is just taking all the good stuff that BMW had and then throwing it out, putting some weird, continuously changing new ideas back, and, you know, shake the box and say, okay, this is the new BMW. Whereas Chris Bengal's work was extremely strategic, and it elevated the essentials that made BMW at the time and what still makes the brand, and it took away all the elements within the whole lineup, within the whole range of cars, that actually weakened the brand. So yes, both the current lineup as well as the Bengal work was provocative, but no, they are not comparable in any way. There's so much quality in the Bengal work, and there's none in the current work.
Very interesting. Flush handles also.
This is a designer's dream to have
Because
it
of the
integrated.
aerodynamics.
Yeah, and it's cleaner. So the graphic the graphic is in the foreground, and you also can see the nice modeling. For sure, we have beautiful grab handles as well. But having this black belt was an idea. Why not integrating then the door handles into this as well? And here in overall, you can see again, it's that blend of the four major ingredients here. Electrification, then we have...
So electrification is literally only the door on the side? Really? That's the way you're carrying electrification forward? I mean, I'm lost for words.
A rugged item on the lower part, the black band with this square cutted wheel arches, and also the cladding on the door. This is X DNA, and in addition to that, we have these big, powerful wheels, M powered, the M outer mirror, and then these extroverted, luxurious materials in addition to that.
Without knowing he would say this, I actually just a minute ago, I think, described pretty well what he's now describing. They took a few cues, a few details that have nothing to do with each other, put them in the box, shook them, and ta-da, here's the XM. But there is no proper strategic thinking, apparently. At least he's not describing it, and it's definitely not visual in the XM, or for that matter in any of the other current production cars. It's just grabbing and putting stuff together. There's no consistency, there's no proper, like, I mean, everything. The proportions are horrendous, the surfacing is bad, the details are tacked on, and there is no intrinsic quality in any of these major 3 steps in car design. And then conceptually it's empty. It's just, I mean, it's superbly poor work.
Understood. I mean, it looks a lot cleaner from any design that we see today on a BMW, and especially usually we used to see on the side some, you know, concave and convex shapes that create light, but I can see that kind of move downwards a little bit, and the whole surface, it's a lot cleaner. Yet
he actually makes a fair point here. There is nothing going on in the surfacing. Yes, it is clean, but it is as clean as an IKEA table is clean. There's nothing going on. It's a flat surface, and that might be appropriate to some other brands, but not if you're selling the ultimate driving machine narrative. This doesn't exude that message. So guys, thanks for tuning in to the design review on the BMW XM exterior. I'll dive into the interior in another video coming up very soon. For now, I'd like to thank you for tuning into this video. Thank you for requesting a design review on the XM2. Let me know in the comments, please, what you think of this car and whether you agree or disagree with me. Anyway, it's taking a lot of energy from me because I think it's absolutely appalling. And I don't like to end that negative on the video usually, but I just think it's a shame of the BMW brand. This could have been so much better. So much better.